courageousness, what innocence, what arrogance. I salute you.
Hello everyone and welcome once again to Geekfest Rants. Today we have part 2 of our Conan the Barbarian special. Joining me once again is Mike Sutton, and we will continue talking about Conan the Barbarian. Now the film, from what I understand, at first, even before it was released, it caught a lot of flack because people got wind of the violence involved, and apparently the first couple of times that was submitted to the MPAA, it was rated X. Back then there was no NC-17.
Yeah.
So they
That's
had
right,
to...
it was R to X.
Right. It's all or nothing. So they apparently trimmed it down a little to make the R rating, which back
because of the blood.
Right, which back then, a film like this, the producers probably wished they could have been a middle ground, a teenagery crowd, and they would have gone wholeheartedly, I'm sure. But at that point, there was no PG-13. So R was the best you were going to get, and that's what they got.
Well, and again, because there's the violence. I mean, it opens up with a village getting wiped out. Right. You get the middle of him being raised. Now he's fighting in the
Now, granted, a lot of the violence, yes, there are some graphic quick shots here or there.
2 decapitations.
But the majority of it is also implied. When his mother is decapitated, you don't see it. You just kind of see her hair kind of come down. But
you hear a swoosh.
Right. But
the head.
Right. That's an editing trick. Now, granted, some other scenes, yes. Some other scenes, you can't get away with them.
Valeria cuts the head right off the guy, the poor guard.
They're traditional R-rated kill shots. You know, even when Conan finally kills Boss of Doom, it's there.
3 decapitations.
It's right there for you to see it. So you can't really get too upset at the rating because at least it got an R rating. That's good enough.
We got to see it.
Apparently the film also was not that successful when it came out. The critics weren't that crazy about it. And I think worse than that, worse than the initial X rating and worse than any critical reaction, this is something that we talked about a couple of podcasts ago when we were talking about Tron. 1982 was one of the unbelievably most busiest years for successful film. And let's just go down the list here of some of the films that this movie was competing against. Airplane 2, 48 Hours, Annie, Blade Runner, The Dark Crystal, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Gandhi, An Officer and a Gentleman, Pink Floyd's The Wall, Porky's, Star Trek II, The Thing, Tron, and a little-known movie that probably most of you don't know about called E.T. So, again, this is kind of like what's about to happen in a couple of weeks where just about every other week, this huge franchise kind of movie is about to come out. It happened in 82. All these films, we were talking about this, a chunk of these films are being remade right now.
This year.
They're rebooting half of these films.
You got Tron last in December. Conan comes out this summer. The Thing comes out in May.
Star Trek's still around.
Star Trek comes out next year, which they're still saying you may get a young Khan.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But the point is that I believe the reason, or one of the reasons why this film was not as successful in the theaters,
because it's a comic book.
It got completely obliterated by everything else.
Book. No, back then it had the stigma. It's a comic book.
Right. You know, why would you go see that when you could just, go
see Gandhi.
See something happy, something more appealing.
Kingsley trying to win an Oscar. E.T., which everybody loved.
E.T. destroyed everything. And I remember I saw it in the theater 2-3 times. I ended up seeing it. I
saw it once.
I didn't see Conan in the theater.
I saw Conan in the theater. I saw E.T. once on video, and that's it. I can honestly say I saw it twice. Conan I've seen about 30 times, at least 40, and that's in the past year.
I saw Conan. I could be wrong. I'm not entirely sure if I saw it the first time on video, because I didn't get a VCR until probably 1984.
I saw it twice in the movies. Saw it once with my brother and went back with my friends from high school because I loved it so much. And bought the soundtrack when TSS was around, Times Square stores.
TSS,
back in Metropolitan Avenue in Queens.
I remember TSS.
I was going through and I went, I love that music. And I saw it going, they have a soundtrack to Conan?
On record.
On record.
What are those records like? Are they like big CDs?
Big Grandpa with this big black thing that spins around. Yeah.
You put a needle? What do you mean? You shoot?
A needle,
what are you shooting up or something? What are you talking about? Needles on records? You people are crazy.
Just a side note, I ended up spending $70 for the entire score to Conan the Barbarian. Found that one many years ago.
Yeah.
Found out it was a copy, so I don't even know where this guy got the other cues from.
We can talk about that. We can talk about it later. I can hook you up with some really good stuff that you never heard from.
And anybody else who's like it, I still haven't picked it up, but they re-released the music again. Basil Poledouris re-released it. It's another special 2-disc set. The music was so popular, even back in the early 90s, Basil Poledouris did a concert in Spain.
Right.
Where he played the music to Conan. He took several of the cues, they played the movie, and I always remember when I heard about that, I wanted to go, but I didn't have the money, and I'm like, I gotta go to Spain, I'm not going to Spain, but I wanted to go just to see it and meet the man, and unfortunately, after he did that concert, I think they said he died about 3 or 4 months later. They did release the concert on DVD. It was a limited release. You can only get it online. Yes, I have it.
Well, I think the film's popularity really grew on video.
Yeah.
Because that's where a lot of these films get a second life. And obviously, this type of film went from VHS to Laserdisc.
Laserdisc,
I remember I got it on Laserdisc. And then after that, it jumped over to DVD. And now we're waiting for a Blu-ray version because I don't think that's come out yet. Or
not yet. I haven't seen it.
And it would be nice to see something like it. The last DVD they put out was a pretty good DVD, which included one of these documentaries that we watched called Conan the Barbarian. Unchained. And it's very good. It was a lot of that footage for the documentary. A lot of the interviews were shot way later after the movie recently, probably in the, I imagine, early 2000s maybe.
Yeah,
so it's pretty current in terms of the information out there. But the film kind of, it's an R-rated film. You couldn't really merchandise the film too much because it's R-rated, and R-rated films very difficult to merchandise. Other than your poster or your soundtrack, that's about as far as you can go. Now, in spite of this, apparently throughout the years, they've tried to spin off the movie in different ways. They've attempted a sequel.
Bad sequel.
Which Mike is not a very good fan of. Now, what was the name of the sequel? The Destroyer?
Conan the Destroyer.
Now, as far as I know, I don't think Milius has anything to do with this, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't think he was on, but I can't swear to that. That's one of those movies I don't want to
And it's
remember.
the type of movie that it's just so bad that we're not going to spend the amount of time talking about it that we did on the original. However, because it's technically a sequel, Schwarzenegger came back for it, and Mako came back for it, right?
Correct.
Did anybody else come back?
From the original movie, no. That was it.
From what little I remember about it, it was kind of
bad.
The first thing I can tell you, it did not feel epic at all. The location, that feel of vast settings and vast tundras and stuff, you don't get that. It looks like sets.
Everything's on a set. And the other problem with that movie was everything was a joke. He had a plucky sidekick, which... it was just stupid. You went from Subutai, thief, archer, Arcanian, who you don't want to mess with, he's going to kill you, to this stupid little goofy guy who swallows gems. Why Conan would even keep him around made no sense. Mako I can understand. And then you got to bring in the warrior woman. I can't remember her name, the actress.
There was an actress called, I think her name was Olivia Dabos or something
Olivia Dabos, she was the princess.
Right.
She was the one he had to save, but you had this other African-American warrior woman.
Was Grace Jones in
this? Which was Grace Jones, thank you very much. She came in, and then you had to have Wilt Chamberlain.
I'm embarrassed that I know her
saying
name.
that Wilt Chamberlain was the bad guy.
Come on.
Is Bumbata. What the hell Bumbata was his
name?
The only good thing was at least it was he's rescuing the princess. He had to fight a demon creature with mystical horn of Haggoth.
Oh, that's right.
And he had to pull the horn out. Like, that was neat, but all the supporting characters, they just made it a comedy. And
it became almost like a bad Ray Harryhausen 1950s film. And Ray Harryhausen's films are better.
Good movies. It was good compared to this.
Compared to this, yes. It was almost like not a sequel. It was just bad. The name matched it. Everything else was like, what happened? What went wrong?
The only good thing, Basil Poledouris came back. He did the score. The music was okay. Again, I can't compare it to the first one because he changed it. It was more upbeat. It wasn't as bassy and a lot of drums.
Unfortunately, with this sequel, that basically marked the end of the sequel. The possible trilogy. That kind of sealed its fate right there, and that was over with.
He almost had the third one.
Well, there were a couple of tries.
But Schwarzenegger was filming Predator.
Right.
Or some other movies.
Right.
He couldn't do it, and the movie ended up, the script turned into Cole the Conqueror.
Yeah, it's like the writers, they lost the rights, so they had to sell off, and then they took the story somewhere else and then rewritten it so it's a different character, so it's called the Conqueror. And I remember I was playing on cable a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, this looks like a bad Conan knockoff, and it's Kevin Sorbo, right?
I think it was Kevin Sorbo.
So it's like you might as well have Hercules. You might as well cast Fabio to do it.
Hercules.
Now, apparently, this is something that we didn't know for sure, but we had to double check. There have been a couple of attempts in television to bring the character of Conan, I guess for kids, so you can market it for kids. Apparently, there were 3 different series. One called Conan the Adventures, that ran in 1992. Again, I have no memory whatsoever of this. There was another one called Conan and the Young Warriors, which ran on CBS.
Those are cartoons. These are both cartoons, which, yes, didn't do very well.
No memory whatsoever. This is 1994. And then the final attempt was called Conan the Adventurer.
And that was awful.
And that was 1997.
I don't even remember who had starred in it, but it was bad. I think it ran on Channel 9 or Channel 11. Watched a few episodes and just said, I'm done.
I'm glad I have no memory of that whatsoever.
And the new movie that's coming out.
Well, that's the thing. You know, we always were hoping that they would do something else. And about a year ago, or maybe a little less than a year ago, word started to circulate that they were going to attempt a reboot, because now everything has to be rebooted. Unfortunately, the reboot would not include, obviously, Schwarzenegger. It wouldn't include John Milius. It wouldn't include anybody from anything that we've seen so far. The actor, I have no clue who he is.
Momo something or
I
other.
don't know what's that about. But they recently they've released a teaser, not a trailer, but a teaser. And because nowadays everything has to be in 3D, they're promoting the hell out of the fact that this is Conan whatever in 3D. And they show you these quick kind of ghosting shots of different characters, or
it's all in fires and flames.
Fire and smoke and this and that. And the last one is, I assume it must be Conan, because they all kind of look similar, all these characters. And it cannot understand what the purpose of this is. Normally something like this would go straight to video, if they're lucky. But the fact that they're making it 3D, I guess they're trying to generate something.
Here's the problem with it. It's being released in August, which means at the end of the movie season, it's not very good.
No confidence.
You've only got a teaser trailer, and it's April, May, June, July, August. 4 months to go to the movie, and you've yet to see anything other than a teaser. So 2 strikes against it. I will see it because it's Conan. It'll probably be bad.
Watch us eat our words.
No, I think it's going to be bad. I just think it's going to be looking like Xena or Hercules from Channel 11, from the WB.
If we're lucky.
And if we get Xena going, la 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 la, I think everybody will think it's great. But and when you compare it to the original Conan the Barbarian by John Milius, and you can't. And I'm curious who's doing the music. I did look it up, and I've yet to find who's doing the music. So that's a bad sign. And number 2, you would think even on the trailer, the teaser trailer, they would use Basil Podoros's music, and they didn't.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because in the past, I guess when studios own music, they've used some of that music on other films just for their trailers, just as a tease for trailers. And I think they even used it on Gladiator the last time I heard it.
Yeah, Conan's music was used in Gladiator, I think Apocalypso. So many movies. There was, because it's Universal, they own the music, they threw it out on the trailers.
But Universal has nothing to do with this. So I guess whoever the hell's doing this, they don't have that many resources, so what are you going to do? I would recommend, I hope you feel the same way, you want the Conan experience, go back to the main film. Don't waste your time. Don't even go to the sequels. Don't hunt down any of these TV shows. If this movie surprises everybody, that would be awesome. But so far, what have they shown us?
Which is almost nothing.
It gives me absolutely no hope whatsoever that they can successfully reboot this possible franchise, because something like this has the potential of franchise. But at this stage, I would say go back to the original.
Oh boy, and it's in 3D. Sorry.
It'll be a 3-dimensional failure.
3D failure. But yes, go back to the original. Listen to Basil Podoros's music.
That's right.
I will listen to that to the day I die.
It's funny because we talked earlier about how an R-rated film could not be merchandised. But as a matter of fact, recently, and maybe within the last 2-3 years, they actually put out McFarlane-type figures, 6-inch kind of figures, and they used a couple of the Conan typical poses.
Yeah, 2 were from the Gladiator pit,
right,
and 1 was the battle paint. It
right.
comes with a head and a hand, and he's on the marble steps and all.
And I'm looking at them as we speak.
They're gorgeous figures. I bought all 3. I think Carlos only got 1.
I got 2.
You got 2. I got all 3. The 4th one actually was chopped. They didn't sell enough to keep it going, unfortunately. But
what would it have been?
Searching around. It was just another version of the Gladiator pit. Different armors and weapons.
In the film, they could have gone crazy. I mean, if you think about it from a merchandise perspective, he wears a lot of different armor or battle gear in the film.
Right. He's got those big arm protectors with the blades sticking out instead of hands.
The helmet with the horns at the end.
He's got these other weird knives that you hold in your hands, and it's got like 6...
Even when he's pushing that wheel thing, they could have made him in that slave outfit. And, what are you going to do?
He has a lot of costumes. And I still wanted him to do Valeria and Subotai.
Those would be great for that kind of McFarlane style. McFarlane's used to be the premier of those types. At one time. Now there's a lot of companies that make that style, that realistic, large size, not so much action figure, more like doll type of, I don't know what you want to call them, but they're more like miniature statues almost.
But yep, action figures went from that toys you play with to no, they sit on your shelf.
But a movie like this one is one of those things. When you have a movie that a lot of people find really special and there is no merchandising, you look for anything you can get your hands on. You go for the poster, you go for the soundtrack.
Like you just said, 5 years ago is when the toys came out. The movie came out in 82.
Right.
It's 2011. 2006 is when they finally released toys.
Obviously, it's just because of the life cycle on video, on DVD, on whatever format happens to be at the time.
And I was telling you before, look out for collectibles. I was bidding on a script, a second draft script. It went for $75, $78. Second draft. I wanted that. I actually paid $130 for a non-folded original Conan poster, which is hanging up in my wall. Lobby cards still go to get the whole set and photos. You still be paying $40, $50 for the set. $60.
I remember also, maybe about 2 years ago, I started seeing those autograph cards for some of the main characters. Not the main, obviously not Schwarzenegger, but there were at least 4 or 5 cards, including James Earl Jones.
Yeah, the Schwarzenegger card, there was one of them per...
Really?
There was one card.
Wow.
I think it was Rittenhouse that produced the set. The set was James Earl Jones, Mako, Ben Davidson, and somebody else. I can't remember. But they did have a Schwarzenegger card, but you had to order like 10 sets to get one of his cards.
God.
It sold on eBay because I was tracking it. $500. That was about 6 months ago. I was back around September.
Wow.
But just to point now, there's still a lot of people who love that movie. I'm one of them. I think Carlos is another. And there's dozens of us still out there.
And it's a shame because, you want to get material from it, and there's just not much to go around. You will be on your third version of the soundtrack, and
I
there's
didn't
just
get that one
nothing
yet.
left.
I didn't get it yet.
The only other area of collecting for this type of film that you might want to try exploring is prop collection. Trying to hunt down original film props. That's a very expensive collection.
I don't have the money for that. Being a comic book collector, I'm not going to be able to buy that stuff. But yeah, I heard Schwarzenegger has the original sword in his house. When he was done filming, he got to keep it.
I heard some interview I was hearing that while he was governor, he would keep it in his office, right on top of his desk. So like people would be like, okay, we got to get to work. Let me get my...
Let me get the sword
Let me
now.
get the sword. He had the original sword from the film in his office on display.
That's the only prop that I know that's out there. I'm sure other stuff is out there, but I haven't seen it. Hunt it down. Go see the movie.
Yes, I definitely see the movie. And like I said, if it comes out on Blu-ray, I'm probably going to go and pick it up because it's one of those films that the better the picture quality, you won't be wasting your money.
And here's something that you might not even know. Anytime I got something new, if it was a new DVD player, the first movie I would watch would be Conan. If I got a new CD player, the first thing I put in was the Conan soundtrack. I broke in all my electronics that way. And I swear, Kim, your wife will probably think I was crazy, but that's how I broke everything in.
Yeah, well, too bad you don't have the Blu-ray yet, because you need that Blu-ray.
And now when it comes out, I will be buying it.
There you go. That'll be your excuse. All right, well, I think that basically exhausts the subject of Conan the Barbarian. We've gone from
movie.
The history to the film to the merchandising to just about anything you can get your hands on with this movie and the not-so-good future of the franchise that appears to be heading towards us.
Pops up in comics every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Dark Horse Comics has the rights.
So you never know. You never know what could happen. Look at the world of Marvel and DC, how they turned it around, and now they're just making too much money. They don't know what to do with all these franchises and characters. One day they could turn around Conan and do something incredible. You never know.
Get the right writer that's passionate about it, and it's a whole different story. Look at Batman.
There you go. Well, thank you, Michael, for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, on this 2-part special of Conan the Barbarian. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to us, and please join us again next time when we do another one of these crazy shows here on Geekfest Rants.
Bye.
Shall all drown in lakes of blood. Now they will know why they are afraid of the dark. Now they will learn why they fear the night.